Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Fairly alarmed here.
Clever girl.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome back to the Hidden Dagger Inn. I'm your host, ILLPeonU, and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at how Ashes of Creation plans to incorporate the Holy Trinity system along with the rock, paper, scissors balance system into Ashes of Creation. So without further ado, let's dig in. The concept of the Holy Trinity in MMORPGs is a foundational gameplay mechanic that divides player roles into three essential categories: tank, support, and damage dealer, otherwise known as DPS. This framework underpins the strategic and interactive dimensions of team-based gameplay in these types of games, with each role bearing a distinct and critical responsibility. The system not only facilitates a balanced team dynamic, but also enriches player interaction and strategic planning, as Ashes of Creation aims to bring back more social group interactions, having 8-man groups. The rock, paper, scissors model complements the Holy Trinity by introducing a game design principle where every choice has a counter. This model is integral to creating balanced gameplay in MMORPGs, affecting player roles, ability, and class designs. Before we break down the system in greater detail, first I would invite you to watch this very important video from Stephen and Jeffrey Bard.
About it. When it comes to classes and PvP, it's kind of like your design theory on designing for that. Obviously, I know we have a lot of people who are interested in PvP, and balance is kind of a lot of people's concern with 64 classes.
I mean, yeah, it's a big, huge, gigantic thing to work on, right? But the way that we're approaching it philosophically is not 1v1 combat, right? Like that would be an impossible thing for us to really do, and it's not really a direction we want to go with the game, right? We're really focused on sort of mass PvP, right? So not like one-on-one kind of encounters, not really even party versus party encounters, but like these big, fights around nodes, these big fights around castles, these big fights around caravans. So a lot of it is trying to figure out ways and balancing ways for classes to work together synergistically, so that like your focus as a team is building out the best the comp that synergizes best for what you've got, and we balance it that way. So we balance party on party, we balance party group on group, and sort of the different configurations of those things. So we look at it more as a macro scale balance problem rather than like a micro scale balance problem. So there will certainly be classes, especially depending on your builds, because we are a build focused game, that just blow other comps out of the water, and that's okay for us. But what we do want is for parties to be relatively well balanced, as long as they've been built sort of with the encounter in mind.
Right, and just to expand a little bit on that, we have specific terminology when referring to archetypes and classes. Classes are the combination of your secondary archetype with your primary archetype, right? And a base archetype is one of the 8 base archetypes that we have present: the 4 martials and the 4 arcane, the ranger, fighter, tank, and rogue, and the cleric, bard, mage, and summoner, right? So those are the 8 archetypes. Now, when you look at balancing, as Jeff was saying, we kind of focus more on the group and even larger as a balancing aspect. And what that means is we're adhering to kind of the Holy Trinity principles. And at the same time, that represents kind of a rock, paper, scissors balance between individual archetypes and classes. So it's understood that some classes and or archetypes on a 1v1 basis will be disadvantaged or will have the advantage. And that we're okay with that, because again, our focus is the larger engagements. And with that being said, the active skills stem from your base archetype. So from a design standpoint, even though augments do radically change the way your active skills kind of provide you abilities, there's still a primary focus on the base archetype itself and not the 64 whole classes, so to speak.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, right? Where we're not really talking about 64 true classes. We're talking about 8 classes with 64 variants. And again, like how you build those variants kind of depend on where you spend your skill points. You could lean more into your subclass or lean less into your subclass depending on where you're putting your points. So there isn't as much variance between the 64 classes as you might expect, right? It's not like there are 64 different versions of, I don't know, like radically different classes. There are 8 classes, 8 archetypes that are all, they have the same chassis, but then they have different augments put on top of that to sort of change the performance of that chassis.
I hope you had a chance to watch the entire clip, as it provided valuable insights as to how they intend to balance Ashes of Creation, from primary and secondary classes to the dynamics of a 1 versus 1 battle class performance versus a large group interaction. The focus is clearly on mass PvP, emphasizing synergistic compositions. It's crucial to spend time assembling the right group for various challenges, keeping in mind that different situations may require unique team compositions and possibly different gear types. I'll delve deeper into the gear strategies in a future video. Now I'm going to spend some time breaking down the system in greater detail, so you have a firm idea what Ashes of Creation is going for if you're new to MMORPGs. Having a tank is paramount, as they will have the ability to control the battlefield. Holding aggro on a large raid boss is crucial. Tanks will have the guard ability also to help healers or anyone else who might be in need of their services. Their true form in the rock, paper, scissors is the rock, to help mitigate incoming damage, allowing the healers the ability to do their job, allowing DPS to execute their roles effectively without bearing the brunt of the enemy attacks. While the DPS, or the scissors, can exert pressure on enemy healers and mages on enemy teams by dishing out rapid and high volume damage that may overwhelm healers' capacity to sustain their team and keep mages on the run. Healers that are protected enough to provide heals through sustained DPS to their team will be invaluable. But as the paper in this scenario, all parts of the machine, if you will need to work together for such an outcome. Healers ideally need to be mobile and assess the situation from afar while maintaining a clear line of sight. Natural class advantages. Certain classes are innately equipped to excel against specific opponents. For instance, a class with abilities geared towards high burst damage can quickly overpower classes that depends on gradual power buildups. Targeted abilities, specifically abilities that are crafted to counteract other abilities directly. For example, the ability to silence or disrupt enemy spellcasting can critically undermine classes that rely heavily on spells. Strategic depth and tactical complexity. Integrating the rock, paper, scissors model deepens strategic gameplay, compelling players to continuously assess their role effectiveness, adapt their strategies based on the enemy actions, and optimize their use of abilities. Game balancing and meta-game considerations. Balancing these dynamics is a continual challenge for developers, who must ensure no role or class overwhelms others. This balance is crucial for fostering a healthy metagame where player strategies evolve in response to gameplay changes and community trends. Several MMORPGs exemplify the successful integration of the Holy Trinity within their gameplay frameworks. EverQuest and World of Warcraft stand as seminal titles that have defined much of what the modern MMORPG entail, with clear, defined roles essential for group activities like raids and dungeons. Final Fantasy and Elder Scrolls Online demonstrate the importance of these roles in their quest designs and in-game content, ensuring players must engage in cooperative play to succeed. Star Wars: The Old Republic highlights the diversity with each role, offering players various paths and styles within the tank, healer, and DPS categories, which enriches player experience and team compositions. In games like Ashes of Creation, the rock, paper, scissors system is likely to influence not just class interactions, but also combat dynamics. Here, each class or archetype is designed with strengths and weaknesses that players must navigate to optimize their in-game performance. This system drives players to devise varied strategies based on their immediate combat situations and broader game objectives. It is also very important to remember when discussing balance, we refer to what Intrepid said earlier about they're not focusing on one versus one mechanics and more on group and larger than group balancing gameplay. Meaning, if you're a healer and a rogue comes up to you and does you dirty, you should not be disappointed, as a healer is classified as a support role and or paper and should not be considered to be able to outlast a pure DPS unleashing on him, especially if the time to kill is 30 seconds. Such fights should favor the rogue simply because he should have access to stuns or silences. Now this brings us to the gameplay and the skill aspect of the scenario, where the rogue will have to use their abilities in the correct sequence and time them perfectly to achieve the best results. However, the development and maintenance of such systems are fraught with challenges. Player diversity. Balancing gameplay to accommodate both casual and hardcore players, each with different expectations and playstyles, remains a daunting task. Complex game mechanics. Minor tweaks in one area can cascade through the game, altering gameplay in unforeseen ways. Economic impacts. In-game economies can be destabilized by imbalances in class capabilities or item availabilities, affecting overall player engagement. Continuous evolution. Regular updates that introduce new content also disrupt established balances, necessitating ongoing adjustments. Feedback management. Distinguishing between subjective player feedback and objective gameplay data is essential for effective game tuning. This one is a big one because sometimes developers tend to listen too much to the vocal people yelling on the forums instead of really referring to what the data is telling them. We have all played games in the past where developers were not very good at balancing the game, and in turn, after reaching max level, they would hit you with the proverbial Nerf bat, making your class feel extremely underwhelming. And this could have serious effects on whether you wanted to continue playing the game. Instead of nerfing the said class, it's better to try to help the other classes handle what you're throwing at them by giving them or tweaking an additional skill that they might have that's possibly underutilized. Your skill and secondary class and augment selections will also have a great impact on how you fare, possibly negating some of the large disparities between the traditional classes. To mitigate these issues, developers employ various strategies, such as deploying updates on a public test realm, or engaging actively with the community, which Intrepid is great at, and using detailed analytics to monitor gameplay changes. These approaches help ensure that the game remains balanced and engaging over a long term, providing a dynamic and rewarding experience for all players. So if you're checking out Ashes of Creation for the first time, let me be the first to say, welcome to the community. And hold on tight, because once we go through the Divine Portal for your first time, you're likely never to forget your first MMORPG, and you will most certainly be hooked, as a whole generation of players have never experienced some of the game mechanics Steven is bringing back to MMOs. A reminder to new players, guilds will be of the utmost importance in Ashes of Creation. If you're still looking for a guild that fits your personality, I invite you to come check out Overlord, the Alpha 1 guild that I've been a part of for over 2 years. You won't find a better group of helpful players with a solid plan for Ashes than right here. I will leave you the link below in further Discord. If you're still watching, I'd like to say thank you. And also, if you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe, as it really helps me out being a new channel. Also, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to hit me up, and you can do that either in the comments below or come visit me on my Discord at the Hidden Dagger Inn, where we just love to talk Ashes and would love to meet you. Or feel free to stop by my Twitch stream, where I stream every Saturday and soon much more as the summer comes up at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day, Vera. Bye-bye.
Work complete.